Never let anybody see you sweat.
So I was born in New York City, and I lived there until I was 8 years old. I realized that I was a much better talker than I was a listener.
I don't know what to say, I just don't like what you're saying.
Sorry, Your Honor.
I ended up going to law school at Georgetown, and I was a prosecutor for Janet Reno. I loved it because it was so raw.
Were you cheating on her?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
All rise.
Our show will be a mixture of education, I think you're misreading the law a little bit, and entertainment. My main goal is justice and the law. That's been my legacy, and the legacy I hope to continue into the future with the show.
Diane Walker claims her employer not only fired her, but withheld a prize she won during an office party. Randy Martinez says Miss Walker cheated to win another prize and was sacked for always being late.
Ms. Walker, you are suing your former employer, Mr. Martinez, for $425, the value of tickets that you won and he will not release to you. And instead, you got fired. Okay, talk to me. When did you first start working for Mr. Martinez?
Your Honor, I started working with him about 5 years ago at the startup of his company. I was one of the first employees that he hired on. And
what was your role there?
I was a sales associate.
Okay.
And we started off as a very small team, and we have expanded over the past 5 years into a bigger team now.
Okay, and you're not all that happy with the growth?
Not particularly, no.
Because it was much more comfy to work in a small environment where you were one of five and open access to the boss.
Well, yes, Your Honor, but I wouldn't just say comfy. I would say that my boss, his behavior was a lot more professional with us. We were able to communicate. And now if we have any problems in a workplace or if we have any problems in general, it takes 3 to 5 business days to even get a hold of him. And he has a new assistant, and he's hired certain people onto the company that have just made communication very difficult. And I feel like it's actually hurting the business in certain ways rather than helping the business in other ways.
I mean, when a business grows, in fairness,
Yes.
perhaps the boss isn't 100% available to everybody all the time for everything. You know, there's a gatekeeper eventually as businesses grow, right?
Yes.
But that's not always what you would want. Perhaps you want to work in a smaller environment. So tell me what happens on this particular day.
Yes. So the day of the party was the day that we had a large investment meeting. And I, unfortunately, have recently had to move further away. And on this particular day, I was driving and there was an unfortunate accident on the highway. All the lanes were shut down. I tried my best to call in to the office, let them know that there was a delay and that I was stuck in traffic. I couldn't get off, there was no exits for me to get off of. And unfortunately, that made it where I was late to the office that particular day. And
but that wasn't the first time you were late.
No, it was not.
No, in fact, you were on probation for being late, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
Yes.
talk to me about that.
In the beginning of the company, because we were so tight-knit, a lot of us, if we were late, we would just call our boss, or when we show up, he would talk with us. And I feel like the company itself had a very laxed environment.
Right.
All the time, if I was late, I knew that I could call him and he would respond to me. And most of the time, he would understand why I was late, where I was coming from. And I believe
Why are you late at all, I guess, is what I'm asking, because the rest of us have to show up on time. So I'm just kind of wondering why it's like you're annoyed at the culture changing, but the culture, because what? Because they're not tolerating lateness now? You got fired for being chronically late.
Yes.
And
yes.
on this particular day, you were 2 hours late.
Yes, and I do acknowledge that the lateness was not okay. However, I guess I would have expected him to come to me like he had before.
But had they not already come to you and said, you're now on probation for being chronically late?
Yes, but not him specifically, HR.
Who came to you and did that?
I was speaking mostly with HR.
So HR told you you are on probation now.
Yes, and I mean,
that's pretty wicked. Like that's something that I would be paying attention to. You have no control over an accident on the highway, but then maybe you should be leaving 2 hours earlier just in case there are accidents on the highway, which is horrible.
And it is a new location. I wasn't used to driving that far. I will say now that I have a better judgment of how far this drive is, especially with traffic. Traffic.
Yeah, but you don't have to go anymore because you got fired. Tell me about getting fired.
Yes. So I arrived at the party.
The party?
Yes, we had a
Well,
party.
you arrived at work first.
I arrived at work, yes.
2 hours late, you missed the meeting.
Yes.
And then what happened? Did anybody say to you, hey, anything that day or no?
Not that day, no.
All right, but during the probationary period, had you been late during the probationary
Not during probation. It was at the very end. The day that I was late was the very last day of my probation.
Okay, and your probation was for how long?
Your Honor, it was for 3 months.
3 months. Okay, give me a second. I'll be with you in a moment. So for 3 months, and then it was you. The very last day was the day that you ended up late.
Coming up on Justice for the People.
She spun twice.
Yes, she did.
Right.
And she won the first prize. That was fine.
Did you give her the first prize?
Yes, we did, Your Honor.
Okay.
And later,
And he was going to watch the dog for how long?
6 days, $200 a day.
Wow. I want to be your dog. You really, that's like something. Okay.
if you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with a dispute between Diane Walker and her former employer, Randy Martinez, over prize winnings.
Yes,
All right,
Your
so
Honor.
you get there, and there is an atmosphere of joy because apparently they've landed the client.
Yes.
And there's a party.
Yes.
And in the party, there is the Wheel of Fortune, which I see in front, and there's prizes.
Yes.
Tell me about what happens at the party.
So I get to the party, and of course, everyone was enjoying food and drinks, and we were having a really good time. My other coworkers were spinning the wheel, and we were laughing, we were enjoying each other, and I spun the wheel, and of course, because we're all laughing and enjoying each other, and we're all on like a very high spirits, laughter, I spun the wheel again.
Wait, when you spun the wheel the first
Yes.
time, what did it say?
I got a $25 gift card.
Okay, and then did you get it on the spot?
No.
Okay, and did anybody else spin twice?
I'm not even sure. We were just kind of like all laughing with each other, so I wasn't really paying attention to if anyone else spun.
So you spun a second time?
Yes.
And the second time, what'd you win? The big prize?
Yes, I won
Yeah.
the tickets.
You won the
And
tickets.
I'm a very big theater nerd.
Okay, and why not spin a third time, and that way you can win 4 tickets?
I didn't even know if there was an option to spin more. I wasn't really told.
That's the issue here, isn't it? Mr. Martinez, can I ask you something? Was Ms. Walker a good employee during those 5 years?
Your Honor, I would say she was an average employee.
Really?
And she was one of our first employees when we started the company.
Okay.
It's really not about that, Your Honor. It's just the habitual lateness that we are questioning here.
Okay.
We're talking about, if I may show you the evidence, about 13 times she's been tardy.
Can I see your evidence?
Yes.
13 times she's been tardy, and how long? Since they
That
started
was just
keeping
in a couple
track?
of months.
Since they started keeping track?
Yes.
Which was what?
That was just for 2 months, Your Honor.
That was in January and February. Like you're on notice that this is a real problem, and
Yes.
then it happened again during the probationary period.
Yes, it did, and Your Honor, it was at the most critical part of the year where we were meeting with one of our top investors, and she was one of the main contact person, and she was supposed to be there. She was told.
This might have been a night you might have wanted to couch surf on someone else's couch to make sure you weren't late for that.
Right.
I will say, but the only reason why we even have this meeting is because of me and 4 other coworkers that
You
had
missed the
started.
meeting.
I know.
Like, I understand, but, showing up is 90%. Like, you can't not show up for the meeting. You got to be there. And if it was one time, it'd be one thing, but it's not one time. But in any event, let me ask you this. When did you decide you were going to fire her?
This happened right after the meeting.
Yeah.
So we had a brief.
But you didn't want to fire her in the middle of the day and then ruin the party,
No, Your Honor.
right?
Yes.
It was really about the party.
Yes.
All right. So now, who's in charge of the wheel spinning?
Okay, that would be the assistant of the HR head.
Okay.
Yes.
And were people supposed to spin more than once?
Everybody spun just once, Your Honor.
What were they supposed to do? Like, was
Just spin once.
Okay.
I mean, there's enough prizes for everybody, but we got to give everybody a chance.
right? And
Right.
so she spun twice,
Yes, she did.
right?
And she won the first prize. That was fine.
Did you give her the first
Yes,
prize?
we did, Your Honor.
Okay, but
Yes.
you wouldn't give her the second one because
No. Well, first of all, because a lot of employees were complaining about it, And we just felt like we had to.
How many complaints did you get?
We got about four.
Yeah,
four
I saw that.
complaints in
They
the
were
email.
emailed complaints that
Right.
are documented where people said this isn't fair. Why did she spin twice? And I guess it's not the cozy environment that you started with.
No, Your Honor.
But really, why did you spin twice? That is kind of, what are you going to spin until you win?
No,
You
Your
know,
Honor.
I'm going to vote until my guy wins the election. I'm just going to keep voting over and over again.
The complaints that were coming in through email were some of our newer.
What difference does it make? Just because you're an original gangster doesn't mean you're the only gangster, okay? Just because you're one of the first ones there, it doesn't mean that they don't have a voice and that you get to spin twice, you
Yes,
see?
and,
you
and
did
if I
get the
was-
first prize that you did win, the $25 gift
Correct.
Yes, you
And
did.
if I was told at the party that I could only spin once, I would have only spun once.
Oh, if someone had just told me that armed robbery was against the law, I would not have held up the convenience store.
Not an excuse, Your
Come
Honor.
on, you know that. Look, Ms. Walker, as a company grows, you know, there may be more rules to follow because it's more unwieldy for him as the owner. And you don't get to waltz in when you want, as though you did, just because you were one of the first people hired. Having said that, that truly has nothing to do. Maybe it does. Maybe that's why people complained. But maybe it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. The point of the story is, one, how many spins is a person allowed to get? And two, did you have more than what everybody else was able to get? And in fact, you did by your own admission because everybody was laughing, so you did it another time. But you can't possibly think that each time you do it, you're going to win whatever it lands on, because each one of those are prizes. And everybody gets one spin. The rules apply to you too. The tardiness rules apply to you, and the spinning rules apply to you. So in this case, I am ruling in favor of the defendant.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim is denied.
I just would say I think paying a couple $100 for someone who's began the company for you would have just
You know, I
settled
really
this quicker.
wouldn't mind that, except that you spun twice.
Coming up,
He heard the door open, he darted out.
How does that happen to you? Like that happens to my unobservant children, but how does it happen to you?
this is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. Randy Barnes claims he hired a dog trainer to care for his Doberman while he was away, but the animal was hit by a car. Austin Shannon says it's not his fault the poorly behaved dog ran out into traffic.
All right, Mr. Barnes, you are suing Mr. Shannon for $2,600 that you say he owes you in a refund for care he didn't provide, plus vet treatment because bad things happened to your dog in his care. Tell me what happened.
That is correct, Your Honor. I have a 8-year-old Doberman. His name is Jax. And I went out of town and I asked if he'd be willing to watch my dog, and he agreed to it. And in the course of that time that he was watching him, the dog ended up getting hit and hurt by a car and out of his care for the next 3 days. So I decided that he shouldn't get the full amount because he didn't watch him for the full 6 days.
Okay, how much had you paid him in advance?
I paid him $1,200.
And is that accurate? Had he paid you $1,200?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, and he was going to watch the dog for how long?
6 days, $200 a day.
Wow, okay. It's a lot of money to watch a dog.
Yeah, well, he was my dog trainer, and they had such a good rapport, and I'd rather my dog be happy and safe, so I was willing to take that chance because he's watched other dogs before, so.
I want to be your dog. You really, that's like something. Okay, the dog gets hit. How did the dog get out?
I was opening the door to go get the mail. The dog was relaxing on the couch, and he immediately, once he heard the door open, he darted out from behind me.
How does that happen to you? Like that happens to my unobservant children, but how does it happen to you?
Right.
Coming up,
Oh, is this a picture of your dog?
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake.
And he was reassuring me that he was okay, but when my sister FaceTimed me, there was blood. And
Was the dog okay?
this is Justice for the People with Judge Milian. We're back with a case of Randy Barnes, who blames Austin Shannon for his Doberman being injured by a car.
You're the dog trainer, right?
He's an 80-pound dog, Your Honor, and he's very big, and he's not the best
All the
listener.
more reason to be a little more careful when you're going to get the mail.
Right.
Right.
I had never considered that because he had been making progress, and when I told him to sit, he would sit, and when I told him to stay, he would stay. He was doing very well, and
Did you tell him to stay before you opened the door?
I did. I tried everything I could to make sure that the Jax would
All
stay.
right, so the dog gets out, and you're suing for $2,600. So $2,000 of it is the vet bills, and $600 is the refund for the time that he wasn't watching your dog. Because what happened is you ended up calling someone else to take care of your dog, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Who did you call?
I called my sister.
You didn't take the dog to the vet. How come?
I thought that the best thing to do was call the owner, Randy, to see
Who's out of town?
to see what he wanted to do with
What
the
did
dog.
he tell you he wanted to do?
I assured him that the dog was taken care of and I could do anything for the dog. He was very angry with me. He was furious. He was like, how could you let this happen? This is your fault. He blamed it on me. And he told me that his sister was going to come pick up the dog.
Okay,
So I told him that he could bring back the dog after the vet for the remaining 3 days.
Well, I mean, would you do that with you? Oh, is this a picture of your dog?
Yes.
Oh, for God's sake.
And he was reassuring me that he was okay, but when my sister FaceTimed me, there was blood. And
Was the dog okay?
the dog, he is okay. He had some bruising and he had to take some antibiotics. But the condition that he was reassuring that my dog was in was not.
Well, it looks like there's some cuts or stuff because they shaved the dog and the leg, and then they put that ridiculous lampshade
Yeah, that's correct.
on the dog so that they won't lick their wounds, and there's no dignity in that.
Judge Milian's verdict when justice for the people returns. This is Justice for the People with Judge Milian.
All right, he's kind of mad at you and wants you to pay the vet bills.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't believe that I'm responsible for those vet bills because I did everything in my right to
Wait,
do.
you can't keep saying you did everything if on your watch the dog got injured to the tune of $2,000
Yes.
in medical bills. Like,
Your Honor.
how can you say you did everything? He should eat the medical bills?
No, of course. I mean,
Well, then who should pay for him? I'm not going to pay for him.
Right.
Right. So who's going to pay for him? I got two people who might pay for him. Dog's not going to pay for him. I'm not going to pay for him. Only the two of you could possibly pay for it. So if he feels it's your fault and you should pay for it, and you feel it's not your fault and he has to eat it.
if I may, Your Honor, before even picking up this client, Randy, I informed him that since his dog was already 8 years old, he had not already had the proper training or habits instilled in him. Therefore, when I picked him
You
up...
seem to think that helps you. All that does is hurt you more. See, you're not just a dog sitter who didn't know any of this. You're the guy who knows all this. And you're the guy who opened the door. I mean, every time you tell me how unruly the dog is, it just makes you guiltier because you're the guy who opened the door without being careful. $2,600, verdict for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
Judge Milian has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant owes $2,600.
I'm just glad that I don't have to be responsible for this. This guy he shouldn't take care of anybody's dogs.
3 years of dog training, this has never happened to me.
This has been a production of Allen Media Group.